2022. My name is Robert Gordon. I am the committee chair. Attorney Sean Evans will be advising the committee on legal and procedural questions, and Brian Chambers and Amy Bradshaw are here to serve as staff to the committee. The Design Adjustment Committee's purpose is to establish clear and measurable review criteria for the consideration of major deviations from the city's Technical Standards and Specifications Manual, building and design, material standards, and subdivision standards. The Design Adjustment Committee does not consider housing type, cost of the proposed unit, occupants, building material, unit size, number of bedrooms, or the architectural design of the structures. These hearings are quasi-judicial evidentiary hearings. That means it's like a court hearing, and the committee's decisions are constrained by the standards in the ordinance and based on the facts presented. All variance requests require a 4/5 vote of the committee to grant a variance. Appeals of the Design Adjustment Committee decisions are to the Board of Adjustment. A written notice of appeal must be filed with the city clerk within 30 days of the Design Adjustment Committee's decision. Appeals are set for hearing before the Board of Adjustment within 30 days or as soon thereafter as practicable. The parties to these cases are entitled to an impartial board. If a board member has a fixed opinion about the matter, a financial interest in the outcome, a close relationship with the affected person, or has had any ex parte communication about the matter, please disclose that information to determine if a recusal is necessary. City staff will introduce the proposed project to the Design Adjustment Committee, and the committee members may ask questions. The applicant may present additional information about the project, and the members may ask questions. If anyone wishes to provide evidence at today's hearing, witnesses must sign in on the clipboard at the back of the room and be sworn in. Because the witnesses are to provide sworn testimony, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. When a witness comes forward to give testimony, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and speak clearly. At this time, staff will administer the oath for all individuals who intend to provide witness testimony.
If I could have all staff, applicants, and any members of the public that wish to speak this afternoon, please stand up and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thanks.
Okay. The first item of our business would normally be approval of the minutes, but I understand it's going to take place at the next meeting. So that brings us to our new business. The first item for mental. Staff have a presentation.
This project is located in the 1945 corporate limits. It's approximately 0.03 acres and contains an existing commercial structure, which I believe used to be a auto repair station. The property is a corner lot on the corner of on Castle and South 17th Streets. The applicant proposes to close one driveway on South 17th and leave the other two driveways on Castle and 17th open. All these, the driveways are existing and in current use presently. On page 3 of your case summary, there's an outline of the requested adjustments for this hearing today. The first one is the minimum corner clearance of an intersecting side street on a major thoroughfare. Oh, there they are. The applicant proposes 38 feet, and I believe it's a 60-foot requirement. As a reason for the waiver, the driveway is existing and functional. The second one is a minimum property line offset for the South 17th driveway. I think the minimum is 75 feet and the actual proposed is 10 feet. The third is a minimum corner clearance for a driveway on a major thoroughfare, which is also South 17th. The minimum is 230 feet, and I believe the applicant proposes 109 feet. The fourth item is the minimum property line offset for a driveway, and we're talking Castle Street. The minimum is 6.5 feet, and the applicant is proposing 0 feet. And finally, the maximum width for a two-way driveway at the property line on Castle Street, the maximum is 30 feet, and I believe the proposed is 32 feet. So as stated, these, as you can see in the attached site plan, these driveways are existing and functional. The applicant is proposing an adaptive reuse of an existing commercial building to a bar, nightclub type use, and that completes my presentation for today. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I believe the applicant's here to address you as well.
Jeff, I did have one question. The applicant's request included some information about street trees
Yes.
that isn't included in the requested adjustments. Do you have any information on those?
Sure. It was determined at the pre-TRC meeting that since there's no new building being built and the parking is less than 5 spaces, that landscaping requirement would not be required in this instance. The only landscaping that would be required is to shield the parking from the right-of-way. As you can see, he's provided a 3-foot buffer, but the street trees and parking lot landscaping, all that we determined did not apply in this situation.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff, for Jeff?
Thank you.
Does the applicant would like to present?
Hey there, my name's Rob Romero. I'm the architect for this project, 210 Greenfield Street, and here's the owner.
I'm Steve Gibbs, tenant of this building.
Hey, we're just here to answer questions, maybe, and if you got anything for us.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. Regarding the first request for minimum corner clearance for intersecting side street on a major thoroughfare, it says the requirement's 60 feet and you're proposing 38 feet. Is the lot capable of adhering to the 60-foot corner clearance?
We're just aiming for we're just to leave what's existing, reuse that, basically. We're not altering those, other than the one that's closest to the corner.
I guess just to answer is the lot even long enough to meet the 60-foot minimum?
On the castle side, or?
On Castle side, it appears.
What is the distance again?
I think it would take it pretty far to that intersection if you went the full 60.
Right. And the reason for that zero was because that's what it is right now. It's existing, right? Basically, that curb cut is on the property line, more or less.
Do you know what the lot width is on Castle Street? I'm right behind you, sorry.
Do you notice, Jeff? Yeah. Yep, 66.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would leave a 6-foot driveway if you were to meet the, okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
Any other questions for the applicant? No?
Okay, so item 5, maximum width for a two-way driveway. So the two-way driveway is also on Castle Street, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're obviously one way on 17th.
Our design requirements are a 30-foot maximum width driveway for a two-way driveway, and it's currently 32, and you're requesting just to leave it alone, don't worry about the 2 feet?
Exactly. Yeah, if that's all right with you guys.
Okay. Does staff have would that benefit us in any way to requiring to reduce it to the maximum allowed right now, so there's no future waivers ever on this property?
I think that if they reduced it from 32 to 30 feet, they would still have the 6.5-foot corner clearance off of that property line to deal with. Now, to your point, if I understand the city's technical standards correctly, the minimum width for a driveway is 23 feet, which would allow them to meet that. With a 23-foot driveway there, they would be able to meet the fourth variance, which is the 6.5-foot corner or property line offset on the Castle Street side. But that would require modification of the driveway. That's my understanding.
Sounds right.
A minimum of 23, maximum of 30, or
For two-lane, yes.
for a two-way?
Yeah,
Okay.
and where this is coming from is page 7-9, table 3, in the driveway section of the technical standards. You know, those standards are referenced in the variance and waivers themselves, but just to make it clear for the group here, that's where it's coming from.
It's hard to see on this site plan, it could be just the resolution of the picture, but how does that driveway interact with the parking on site? Like, how far is that first parking spot from that driveway?
It is approximately 30 feet.
30 feet?
Yeah.
Okay. So if there were a car exiting onto Castle Street and a car entering from Castle Street, would there be enough room
Yeah. There's enough room to get by.
with a car parked in that
Yes.
first spot?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious what's driving the decision to use the Castle Street or use a Castle Street drive instead of 17th Street. I mean, where I'm looking at is we've got like one of our bicycle Route 1 is Castle Street right there, and so it's creating some potential vehicle and bicycle conflicts where those could be avoided simply by utilizing the South 17th Street. Now, I don't know if that's an egregious, its location. I mean, I see this here, but I want to hear from my engineering folks if that's acceptable, what they have down here on 17th Street as far as coming in and out. Because as far as leaving the site, I don't see any benefit to exiting on Castle Street. If both were there and I could leave on Castle Street, I could either take a left or a right on Castle or take a right and immediately go up 17th. All those options are still available to me if I leave on 17th. Now, the only thing that would be different is getting to the site. You'd have to come up 17th to pull in and out. But do we resolve a lot of these other problems by doing that?
I can let Dennis potentially chime in on that. I know that one of the issues with using 17th Street, which is the higher volume street from a vehicle standpoint, is if you use that as two-way and you get cars that would swing across multiple lanes of traffic to make that right onto Castle, if that's the direction they wanted to go. I think also one of the concerns is that if you egress out of the 17th Street, you're dumped immediately into a left turn lane, so you've got to cross over lanes, to get to even the straight through going towards downtown on 17th Street. So I believe that where some of there's a lot of traffic at this intersection that's good and bad for the applicant, good in a lot of ways and maybe a problem in others. But I don't know. I don't know that I'm opposed to any of them, but those are the issues.
I would ask staff, maybe Jeff, regarding the code for a one-way street, are there restrictions to driveways on one-way streets? They're not restricted to one-way driveways on one-way in driveways or one-way out driveways?
The only restriction I'm aware of is if you had multiple driveways and you didn't have the frontage, and we've allowed one way in, one way out in those situations, but I'm not aware of any other situations where you would have one way unless it's a condition of, an approval here.
Right, okay. Yeah, I guess my opinion to answer Chad's, I would have concerns of somebody trying to navigate an exiting maneuver onto 17th Street with somebody trying to enter at the same time. It's almost a U-turn being performed there.
That's correct, and we don't really want people driving back like, in front of the building as you're heading back out. We're trying to keep it as safe as possible for the people who might be hanging out right in front of the building, too.
I guess a procedural question, maybe this is for Sean. We obviously are going to have some discussion about these items. The applicant is obviously here and available for questions. When would be the appropriate time to open the public hearing and hear any public comments there might be versus continuing the discussion on each of these items?
Mr. Chair, I think you can do either way you'd like. You can certainly open it up for public comment now. I would just remind you that the applicant would have a chance for rebuttal after that public comment period.
Certainly. If that's okay with you, I think we'll do that. We'll hear if there's any public comment, and then we can bring you back up if we have any additional questions. Okay? So at this time, I'll open the public hearing for this item. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to speak?
No,
Yeah,
sir, were you sworn in? Were you sworn in? I don't think you stood up to be sworn in. So if you wish to speak, you'll need to be.
Just come on up and take the oath, and then you can address the committee.
Nice.
If you could please raise your right hand. You can stand right there. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Where do I go?
And state your name and your address for the record.
Yes, my name is Sebastian Gomez. I'm the property owner of 1616 Castle, which is that rectangle just above, I guess, the proposed parking? Is that, can you all see the thing that's behind you? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Sir, if you could speak into the microphone, because this is
Yes.
recorded. Thank you.
I'm just trying to visualize where where the parking would be. When you said zero setback from the property line, did you mean my property line or the intersection? Okay. What I could say is that the drawing is a little bit misleading in that long rectangle above the hash mark thing is, I believe it's supposed to depict my house, but my house is actually 2 feet away from the property line there.
Do you have
there's no
the aerial
fencing.
we can put up?
I'm sorry?
Would it be better if we show the aerial? Sorry, excuse me, I'm just trying to
Sure.
get- There was an aerial up. Yeah, there it is.
Oh,
Okay.
So the space between the, like the back of that silver truck and my house is a distance of only 2 feet. My house is actually set back from the property line 2 feet, and the paved area of the property is paved all the way up to the property line, including the back of the building. And from the aerial view, the right side of my house is bedroom, kitchen, living room. I'm concerned slightly of the headlights. I believe that's where the proposed parking is. I went to ProTrack last night. It looks like there's 4 spots, 1 disabled, but they would basically be shining my window. And basically, I'm looking for a fence, or I don't know if this is the right venue, but I would hate myself if I didn't, say something. But for the zero from the parking lot, that's, I mean, there's not really much I can do, but I don't really care much about that. It's just where the parking is, it would light me up a little bit.
Understood.
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
And again, I didn't mean to waste your time. I could have brought this up with
No, you're
Steve.
fine. Not wasting our time.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Did great.
Okay, well, if there's no other public here to speak on the item, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion of this meeting. And that leaves us to any discussion about the specific waiver items. I guess in response to Mr. Gomez? Okay, his concern, does staff have any input on, is there any requirements for this number of parking spaces to be set back or buffering between them and the adjacent property owner? Was that discussed at TRC? Any standards apply?
It was discussed. The way the site is now, the asphalt goes all the way to the property line currently. I don't know if there was parking existing when the auto repair shop was there previously. As you know, we are into the new land development code, and so one of the provisions we don't have any longer is a buffer or fence requirement in the well, let me backtrack. So we used to require buffers against anything that was residentially zoned or used, but we don't have that provision any longer. So current code would not require a fence between this gentleman's property and this use. So it may be something for the board to consider as adding a condition if you want to pursue a wooden fence requirement for that. Does that answer the question?
It does. I mean, I don't know that screening and fencing is within our purview of the variances. I mean, I don't know that it's directly applicable to any of the waivers requested, but certainly would be good for the owners to consider for sure. Any discussion on the waivers?
Are there criteria for variances that we have? I mean, it just seems to me, when you're going to allow a variance for something, it's usually for some.
Chad, if I could get you to speak into the microphone, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
It's being recorded, thanks.
You know, oftentimes variances are for, you know, highly unusual shaped lots or some topographic condition or whatever it is.
Site constraint, yeah.
Yeah, some sort of site constraint. And would this, simply the size and location cover that here?
Well, I think that's kind of what Dennis was speaking to with his first question about the total width of the property there, is you have a bona fide site constraint. But I'm not sure how to answer his question. I mean, I know we have some guiding criteria as to what allows us to, do you have those criteria handy that are in the code? Does anybody for the DAC? I mean, I know that historically we're looking for bona fide site constraints, hardships.
I'm not familiar with the specific criteria, but in the past, we've had to have some form of justification
Right.
provided to justify the adjustment.
Okay.
So as long as there's something you can point to and say, this is what we're going to point to justify this, I think you're in good shape.
I think the legal requirement is that you need to have findings of fact that support your decision. I don't think our code, lays out the specific criteria. I know that is the case with the Board of Adjustment on most of their
Understood.
decisions, but not for this group.
Understood.
Thank you.
Well, how does the board wish to sort of tackle these? Do we want to just kind of pluck them off one at a time? I know we are supposed to be voting on these one at a time as opposed to in any kind of batch. So I guess I'll just sort of open it up for any discussion, and then we can sort of take motions on individual variances as we sort of get close to those.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Maybe a question for the applicant. About the 6.5-foot offset from the property corner for variance number 4, what is proposed is 0 foot. And I'm just curious, why not? It seems like there is room to do the 6.5 foot, which then at the same time can also take care of variance number 5. Why was that not considered?
I guess I'd say that it's existing and it's functioning, and when I'm dealing with a client, it's an added expense where I'm thinking, is it necessary? I'm not sure if that, I mean, if it solves your technical reasoning, I guess it's an option, but we're trying to provide the most width possible in this pretty busy intersection. So I'm trying to give a little leeway for those people in trying to get out onto Castle. I think that's mostly the reasoning.
Thank you.
That was my question, yeah. So, just to reiterate, what would be the impact to your site to reduce the driveway on Castle to 30 feet?
Are you asking to remove the entryway on Castle?
No, just
I
to
didn't
reduce it to meet the, actually, to Carl's point, you know, if we were to meet the technical standards for item 4 of the offset of 6.5 feet, it would reduce your driveway to what, 25.5 feet?
Yeah. But that, I guess you're asking for a new radius curb and all, and then sidewalk repair and all that? Is that right?
I can't answer that. I mean, narrowing the driveway, I don't know if it would affect the sidewalk, but.
Yeah, you'd have to rebuild it in that portion. They want to bring it down to take 6 feet off of that. Right here.
A good dropping street view in so
No,
we can
just
see
bring it-
exactly what
it's
we're
like
talking
more than-
about.
Yeah, it's more than,
From a functional standpoint, if a car is entering that driveway and you have parked cars there, that would provide a little bit of a guidance away from the parked cars if that curb return was
yeah, they want.
6.5 feet further onto your property.
Yeah, I think we can make that work.
There was a suggestion at the last TRC meeting to simply, I don't remember what they called it, they were going to paint. It's like more of a paint line rather than recurbing.
And it looks like there's some bollards and some sort of utility. Is that cable? What do we
It
know?
looks like a backflow preventer with bollards around it in the middle of the driveway.
Yeah, that's
That
that.
coming out.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't see that full width getting used right there unless you do
think
some
they're
major reworking
modifying
of
that.
that situation.
Yeah, I think if we did go and extend it, it might help with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can extend that curb down.
Okay, so, all right. So would that mean, I guess so we've kind of got a couple of issues, and if it's okay with the board, I'm going to kind of pluck off the low-hanging fruit first, if it's all right with you. In looking at the number 3, for example, the 230-foot required minimum corner clearance of a driveway, is there any discussion on that one? If not, I'm going to make a motion to approve that waiver on the grounds that they don't have enough property frontage to meet that standard. I think that's the driveway on 17th Street, so I'm going to approve that waiver to allow that corner clearance standard to be, a waiver for the corner clearance standard.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's number 3. Similarly, what's the other one, number 2? That's also the 10 feet. Okay, well, before we get to that one, I wanted to kind of talk about that one first. Yeah, so, okay, do you want to handle, let's stick on the Castle Street driveway while we're talking about that. It is my opinion that if you can reduce that driveway width down to 23 feet, or as low as 23 feet and still meet the standards, that would satisfy the 6.5-foot property line offset for Castle Street and reduce it down below the maximum width of a two-way driveway. So I guess my question, Dennis, perhaps, is there a benefit to having a wider driveway in that location? I think the applicant had mentioned something about speeds of vehicles, getting them off the off the road.
I wouldn't think it would be the speeds of vehicle. That's the side street at the major intersection, so it's typically a stop controlled where entering speeds would be lower rather than 35 miles per hour, somebody trying to turn in at, full speed.
Okay. So
I think having a narrower, not too narrow, but a driveway width that meets our standards would help slow folks down trying to enter the site to make the folks on your site more safe.
Sure. Agreed.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can either vote on that, or you can potentially withdraw items 4 and 5. I think if you move which way is north? Up. Okay, that way. If you move I guess the northern, yeah. Where is it? No, it would be the
west.
western side of the driveway. If you pull that in, you would do two things. One, you would reduce the overall width to a standard, something that meets standards, and you would improve your corner clearance. You might not even potentially have to affect the sort of eastern side of the driveway, and you may or may not have to replace sidewalk panels. That would be up to.
Okay.
So if you either can withdraw that item or, to where, and meet that standard, or we can sort of vote on it, I feel like that standard could be met.
What should we do? We'll revise it as you recommended.
Okay. So would you want to withdraw items 4 and 5, waivers 4 and 5, which both deal with the corner clearance and the maximum width of a two-way driveway?
Yes, I guess so, right? And then do I resubmit it? Is that how it goes, or do you just approve the corrected width?
Well, the TRC is the one who approves the plans.
Okay.
So as I understand it, and staff can confirm, is that you would resubmit a revised site plan showing the driveway that meets standards to planning, and they would, submit that for TRC review and
Good.
approve it.
All right, that's good.
Okay. So do you withdraw those items?
Yeah, I think we have to, right? In
Okay.
order to proceed further, yeah.
All right.
Unless it can be agreed right now, is there a way to agree upon it and have it revised, and you can approve that, or no?
Well, we can't approve your drawings. That has to be approved by planning. I mean, we're just considering waivers.
Yeah, I mean, whatever happens at this meeting, you would just submit a revision, we'd look at it and get it out the door.
Okay, all right. Well, one day I'll understand.
We're still learning ourselves, so. Okay, so that brings us to the number 1, which is also the Castle Street driveway, the 60-foot minimum corner clearance. Does anybody have any discussion or a motion on that one?
I would make a motion to approve variance number 1. The minimum corner clearance could not functionally be attained by the driveway and retain access to the site.
Agree. I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. So the first waiver number 1 was approved. Waiver number 3 is approved. So that brings us only to number 2. Sorry to jump around on that. I know that's confusing, but I don't know. I guess my concern with that particular entrance is it is being shown as a one-way entrance, but it's, hang on. 29 feet wide. I believe the standards for that are, per the technical standards, don't allow a driveway that wide for one-way access. Does anyone see any issues with a driveway that's that wide for a one-way? Because it's one-way in, it's one-way, it's an ingress only driveway, right?
But that's what's being shown,
Right.
correct? Yeah.
And that's the way you feel like it would function best, as a one-way in?
Yeah, I think so.
With
And that's
their-
just existing widths. We haven't touched it.
Okay.
What kind of, I don't know, controlling mechanism would you have on your site to try and ensure that drivers don't exit that way?
Like maybe some painted arrows on the ground?
Yeah, and signage as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was any of that, actually, the approved TRC plans don't have any driveways, is that correct? Jeff's not here, sorry. Brian?
Jeff had to step out. That's my recollection. The applicant remembers.
What's that? What's the question?
The approved TRC plans don't have driveways, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, because you
We
propose
wanted-
no driveways to
Right,
get
we
the project.
wanted to get the business rolling, and then we're coming back and addressing driveways.
Understood. Okay. Well, I mean, my suggestion, I like that it's far away from the intersection, but my suggestion is you could reduce the southern end of that driveway, move it closer away from the property line, and you could do two things. Yeah, thank you for dropping it in there. Yeah, so if you moved the southern edge of that apron to the north, you could do two things. One, you could increase the property line offset, which would improve compliance. You wouldn't be able to be compliant, but you would improve compliance with variance number 2, and you would reduce the driveway width to something that is more compliant with a one-way driveway. Because if you have a two-way, I mean, it is my opinion that drivers are going to treat it, like if you have a wide one-way driveway, you can put some paint on the ground all you want, but drivers are still going to see it as a two-way driveway. It's not going to function, and that's why the standards are the way they are. That's why you have a reduced width for one-way driveways. So that is my opinion, but I'd like to hear the rest of the board thoughts on that.
I would encourage TRC to review the design of that driveway, possibly making it more, if any work's done to either of the sides, making it more of an obvious one-way in driveway, angled in some way to make it very difficult for somebody to exit onto 17th Street. I don't know if that's for us to.
No, I think we have to take some action, I guess approve, if you will, of the waiver, because I sort of will acknowledge the fact that I don't want that thing 75 feet from the property line. You don't want it any closer to, you don't want the northern edge any closer to the intersection than it is now. My question is, could the southern edge of that driveway be narrowed to something that is more compliant with the width of a one-way driveway? As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and make that motion that we,
Just alternatively,
Yeah.
and we're, if we were to move the northern corner down further away from the intersection,
okay,
and we're still not going to be in compliance with the property line, no matter what we do.
okay,
If we were to move this one down and angle it
understood.
such that there would be more on-site asphalt area that's not in the immediate area of an intersection or a driveway, it would improve your on-site conditions a little bit. But to reduce the width of your 17th Street driveway toward the property line, I don't know what minimum or maximum driveway width is?
According to the standards, it looks like for one-way traffic, the minimum width is 13 feet. The maximum width, it's oddly worded, but it's for a two-lane, which this is only a one-lane, it looks like it's between 13 and 15 feet is what it should be. I'm wondering if we can't potentially make some sort of a motion to approve, subject to TRC review of a compliant, a one-way driveway compliant with one-way widths.
I like that.
Okay, and that would allow you guys to sort of look at it more and figure out how you would prefer that driveway to be configured. I don't think what we're asking you to do is to completely rip up everything and redo it, or at least I don't think that's my intent. My hope is that you can pick one end or the other and narrow the driveway. I guess it seems like you would prefer that they shift the northern side towards the property line rather than the southern away from the property line.
That's what I would do, but that's
Okay.
just one opinion.
I agree with that. I mean, it pulls it further from the intersection.
Yeah.
And it's a busy intersection, so
Yeah,
it just makes
and
sense.
and I would agree with that. Okay.
Also, I'll just add one more thing to support it. Dennis was talking a few moments ago about how actually narrowing that curb cut can actually enhance safety, and I think that's a really good point. Making it wider and more generous for cars only increases the opportunity that someone's going to do something squirrely in their vehicle. And it actually becomes a very effective traffic calming device. That's how they landed on those dimensions, in the standards, so.
Agree with that. Does somebody want to craft that into a motion?
Just as a reminder, based on the discussion, I think it would be a motion for conditional approval, and then just state what your condition is and the justification for it.
All right, here goes. I would make a motion to approve waiver number 2, conditional upon TRC review and approval of a standard width one-way driveway.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Just a point of clarification, we're going to allow the applicant to decide which side of that driveway is reduced for TRC review and approval. Because we're going to look at a one-way driveway. If it's one way, I'm not sure. I'm just looking to make sure we got enough guidance for the folks on TRC to let the applicant know which way. I mean, if you prefer them to do it from the north, then I would say make that part of your motion. But if you want to leave it open, that's fine as well. I just want clarification for TRC.
I see that guy wire on the south side. I would prefer to leave it open-ended and let staff, and let the applicant and work with staff to figure out what would be the best way to configure that.
Yeah, I think the goal of reducing the width is going to do something to your site. And if you can get better use closer to that guy wire, kind of behind that one-way entrance, if there's seating or something out there, it would be safe, a lot more safer over there. Or if you wanted to shift the driveway to the southern end, and whatever, I would leave it on the applicant and staff to determine a proper one-way driveway. Yep.
Agreed. Okay. Well, if there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
All right,
Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay. Any other items to discuss? No, I think that's only for subdivisions, right? There's no overall approval. That's only for subdivisions, right? Okay. All right, so if there's no other items, we'll go ahead and close the meeting. Thank you.